In 1959, Oxford professor, writer, philosopher, literary critic, and most importantly, brain behind the Chronicles of Narnia on the PS2, C.S. Lewis wrote an essay called Good Work and Good Works. Here are some excerpts from it that I think about almost daily. As I read them, please keep in mind this was written way back in 1959 by a guy who had fought in World War I. It is of no use at all trying to impress sailors with a new liner because she is the biggest or costliest ship afloat. They look for what they call her lines. They predict how she will behave in a heavy sea. Artists also talk of good work, but decreasingly. They begin to prefer words like significant, important, contemporary, or daring. These are not, to my mind, good symptoms. But the great mass of men in all fully industrial societies are the victims of a situation which almost excludes the idea of good work from the outset. Built-in obsolescence becomes an economic necessity. Unless an article is so made that it will go to pieces in a year or two and thus have to be replaced, you will not get a sufficient turnover. In the highest aesthetic circles, one now hears nothing about the artist's duty to us. It's all about our duty to him. He owes us nothing. We owe him recognition, even though he's never paid the slightest attention to our tastes, interests, or habits. If we don't give it to him, our name is mud. In this shop, the customer is always wrong. This attitude to art is fatal to good work. Many modern novels, poems, and pictures which we are browbeaten into appreciating are not good work because they are not work at all. They are mere puddles of spilled sensibility or reflection. When an artist is in the strict sense working, he of course takes into account the existing taste, interests, and capacity of his audience. These, no less than the language, the marble, or the paint, are part of his raw material, to be used, tamed, sublimated, not ignored nor defied. Haughty indifference to them is not genius nor integrity, it is laziness and incompetence. You have not learned your job. Great works of art and good works of charity had also better be good work. Let the choirs sing well or not at all. Otherwise, we merely confirm the majority in their conviction that the world of business, which does with such efficiency so much that never really needed doing, is the real, the adult, and the practical world. There's a lot more gems in this essay, so I've linked it in the description, I think. I'm not even sure if you're allowed to do that, so maybe it's there, I have no idea. But you should look it up either way, because this is basically a philosophical argument about why I like Astro Bot so much, and also why I quit PlayStation after the PS2 to go to the dark side. I have my issue with all the console manufacturers, like I wish you hadn't died, there's not enough time in the day to really explain how I feel about you, and man, I wish you were real. And my general frustration with PlayStation for the longest time was that I just don't care about anything that they're making. They always seem to push this technologically impressive, samey, over-the-shoulder cinematic action-adventure game style that I don't really care for that much. I'm sorry, I'm just not interested. Like, I look at the new Naughty Dog game with the excellent title, and I think I'm gonna pass. I'll go play the new golf game that they gave Pac-Man to make instead. The only reason I'd ever consider playing this is to figure out what happened to her hair. Did the intergalactic prophet steal it? So I hate whatever this is, but every now and then PlayStation puts out these real fun and unique games that stray a bit from the Sony formula. You'll get an Everybody's Golf or a Tearaway Unfolded, and it's a magical moment when we get one of these. They always get great critical reception, and there's even a 16% chance that they sell well. Every now and then it seems like gamers take a break from watching the good graphics and 30-minute cutscenes to remember that it's really pressing some buttons that makes us all feel alive. And one of these times was with 2024's Astro Bot. This was 2024's Game of the Year according to Jeffrey himself, the game that everyone said was as good as Mario Galaxy. Now, as a longtime Nintendo fan, am I really gonna let them say this is up there with a modern Mario game? Yeah, it is. Astro Bot is a gamer sort of game. I mean, it's a 3D platformer. It doesn't get more video gamey than this. It doesn't try to reinvent the wheel. Instead, it just brings the wheel into Luigi's Casadella tires from the 2006 hit film Cars, and comes out in these sleek white walls with rims picked out from the Pimp My Ride guys. There's precedent for this, after all. Remember what Elijah said, they worked on the Xbox. The story of Astro Bot is about as in-depth as a Mario game is, but instead of trying to save the princess, you're trying to save your PS5 from the aliens who are presumably using these pieces in their AI data centers, which caused this once lush and green landscape to turn into a desert and RAM prices for my future computer to double. How much spaghetti does Billy Smith need to eat? Come on. But the story just exists to give you an excuse to rescue Kratos from an octillery that got mixed up and ended up in a PlayStation game, so it's awesome anyways. Before we go any further, I gotta put a spoiler warning. And I know what you're thinking, Hydrated Gaming, you already told me everything with the data centers and Will Smith and the octillery and whatnot. But no, in a game like Astro Bot, the true sense of discovery and wonder doesn't come from the narrative, as cool as it may be, but from the gameplay itself. What I'm about to tell you is best experienced blind, so if you haven't played it yet, it's time for us to part ways and for you to ruin my video's retention time. But if it means you get to enjoy Astro Bot more than you otherwise would have, it's worth it. So get out of here and play it. The power-ups and special stages are the highlights of the game for me. Astro's base moveset is pretty limited, all things considered, when you compare it to what I think is the gold standard of movement in a 3D platformer, Mario's Toolkit from Sunshine. Astro's base mechanics are still used to its full potential, like with these levels where you gotta knock down the enemies. These are really cool. But even then, the power-ups were always going to be the make or break in whether or not the game could sustain a consistent level of fun and excitement, and they do not disappoint. What makes the power-ups so cool is that the vast majority of them not only serve as a different way of attacking enemies, but also a different means of traversal, which means the level design can make some bold and wacky changes halfway through, keeping anything from getting stale or overstaying its welcome. You can plow through enemies and traverse hard-to-reach places with the dog and chicken. You can slow down time. You can turn into an indestructible ball to block attacks and cross spikes. You can be a sham wow. You can be this kid from the funny video from like 12 years ago. And my personal favorite, you can be Ant-Man. This is amazing. This one mechanic alone could have an entire game based around it if Disney weren't cowards. There's a lot more fun ones here that I don't have time to mention, but what I have to make time to mention are the 5 special stages representing the 5 unique eras of PlayStation. An Ape Escape level for PS1, a God of War 4 level for PS2, which only represents the PS4 and 5 games, but is so good I don't really mind that the PS2 kinda got screwed over here. You got Uncharted for the PS3, Horizon for the PS4, and then the one completely out of left field, Loco Roco for the PSP. Now this is a video game made by real gamers. You can tell they really love the colorful and deep history of the PlayStation brand, and it's so refreshing to have developers who like both gaming and, dare I say, even gamers themselves. Each of the throwback stages give you a game-specific power-up like Spike's net, Kratos' axe, Nate's gun, Aloy's bow, and Loco Roco's magnificent curves. And the level turns into basically a little fun copy of how those games functioned. I've never played Uncharted before, but this level was so good I kinda want to now. And that's another great thing about the Astro Bot brand. It could be a guide for getting you curious about some of these other characters in games. Like, I don't know what it is about this cat, but it makes me want to spend $70 on Best of PlayStation Network Volume 1 on the PS3. All this does come at the cost of Astro not always feeling like he has his own world, though. And in that sense, he's a different kind of mascot than Mario is. Mario, for the most part, has his own land, independent from all these guys, except for the dinosaur and the gorilla. But Astro Bot really is connected to the wider PlayStation universe in a way that kind of makes it hard to take him out of it. I don't know if that'll make developing a sequel more challenging, and don't get me wrong, I'd rescue Chop Chop Master Onion as many times as he needed me to, but would the wider gaming audience be okay with that? I don't know. The wider gaming audience definitely hates repetitive sequels, this much we know. I kinda think it's why they lock the costumes away until you're already pretty far through the game. They want you to also like Astro himself, which to be fair, I do. If I had the option to swap to Parappa 5 seconds in, I probably would have. But there's a piece of me that's happy I couldn't because it meant I started to like this guy and his own merits. I still am kinda disappointed you can't play as all the bots you find, or at least most of them if licensing was an issue. I really wanted to be Kratos Astro Bot for longer. But that's about the only complaint I have for the whole game. And I understand why they made the choice that they did. Another thing to note is since it launched, it got some new DLC with new costumes and bots, which is really fun. You can unlock a Santa Claus outfit and beat up wrongdoers, which is lore accurate, so that's always appreciated. For so long now, I feel like I've just been seeing these new games coming out and just sighing to myself and going, man, remember when games were just fun? And then here comes the Astro Bot team like, do you guys remember Loco Roco? Remember Ape Escape? Remember that game where you play as the mosquito and you gotta try to suck the blood from the woman in the tub? No? You guys don't remember that one? Remember when games were fun and it's just like, yes, I do, right now. I'm having fun right now. The last time a new game filled me with this level of whimsy was probably Breath of the Wild. See, I feel like I'm to the point where I've played so many games I can just smell the difference between video games and products. The economic engine's only designed to transfer capital from the back of my pants to corporate shareholders. And don't get me wrong, I like to believe in the invisible hand as much as the next guy, but I also don't worship it as my god. Our Hollywood elites seem to always be selling us their jarred farts that they believe smell like a light spring breeze on a tropical beach, or they're simply shaking us down for cash with these mediocre products that have no heart. It's either an attitude of I hate my stinky, smelly countrymen and their dumb beliefs and ideas, or the greed is good crap from the corporation lovers. And I just want to play games made by people who like making games because they like games because I like games. So yes, Astro Bot does stand among the giants as a game of the year because it serves as a light of where I think gaming should go. This is good work. When you take a step back, this really is as bold of a statement for the time as what Breath of the Wild was. Breath of the Wild perfected the open world genre and raised the bar for all future open worlds by 100%. And Astro Bot perfected the almost extinct non-Nintendo AAA fun type game genre. Still don't believe me that it's good? Astro Bot has a talking tree. All the greatest works of fiction have a talking tree. It's called media literacy, perhaps consider doing it from time to time. In summary, Astro Bot is why I like gaming so much. The Grammy winner will not be good work. The Oscar winner will not be good work. But the Game of the Year can be good work. Gaming is the last bastion of culture that I feel like the Hollywood elite blob has not yet fully absorbed. It's got a lot of it, but it just can't seem to get all of it despite its best efforts. Thank you, Pacific Ocean, for the large part you play in that. And Astro Bot is proof of this, proof that gaming has not been overcome. And gaming will never be overcome because you, my dear gamer, are too powerful. Gamers may be the most depressed people on the planet, but even still we endure. Not only do we endure, we thrive. Stay hydrated, and stand proud, my fellow gamer. And go play Astro Bot too.